On today's Rebel's Edge, J Powell pours cold water on what was otherwise a pretty decent rally. Are we higher for longer? And then, embattled United Healthcare CEO steps down for personal reasons amidst a DOJ fraud investigation. We'll go behind the scenes on that story. And finally, Dick's Sporting Goods buys footwear legend Foot Locker for a sum that might be a little too much. Based on how the stock's trading since that deal was announced, Pete might have a different opinion. All that and more on today's Rebel's Edge.
All right, here we go, man. We got a lot to cover in a short period of time, and there's some really juicy stories in here today, by the way. So I think we got to jump onto it. I'm going to go right away and hit macro futures. By the way, you do look good. I'm looking at you right now. John doesn't have that same look. You really got something. You got it. You got it going on pretty well. And I think John will be jealous. That's why I'm selling it.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. I'll take the compliments where I can get them at this stage. What do you got in the macro minute, Pete?
All right. On the macro side of things, I would just say this. I've said it throughout this earnings season. Earnings season has helped and would help and buoy the markets. And all you got to do is take a look at what happened today. We have Walmart. They looked pretty strong as far as what they were able to put up. Now, the stock actually went a different way because of some of the commentary. Deere had a great earnings. They absolutely crushed it. That was really impressive. United Health is a little bit of a scary one, though, Mark, and I know we're going to be talking about that, but between the United Health and some of the home builders' sentiment, there's still a little bit of VIXy type stuff going on out there for us right now, why the markets are kind of moving the way that they are.
Yeah, and listen, it ties into what my first cold open topic was, which was J Powell and his commentary basically saying, look, we see supply shock, right? Which is essentially Greek for volatility. But I like the VIX where it is. I don't want to jump on your fantastic futures, but let's get into the VIX, Pete.
Yeah, as far as the VIX goes, it's pretty interesting. We got all the way down to 17. And now here we are, and we're in a good spot, in my opinion. We're between 18 and 19, sort of in that little range, if you want to call it a range. It's only been a short period of time. But the indications are we're going to see this S&P move about 1%. That's about what we're seeing. And then you throw in there a little bit of the emotional side of it, and I think that's exactly why we're sitting there where we are right now. So interesting. It wasn't too long ago we were 25. It wasn't that long ago that we were 60. So the fact that we're at 18 to 19, I think it says a lot about where we are in the market right now.
Yeah, I think it does as well. I think that traders and investors are getting comfortable with the VIX at a 20 handle. I don't think that's a high volatility. Everything's relative, of course, but as you and I were talking just yesterday in New York, there's so much going on in the world out there. There's so much uncertainty, not just with trade deals, but Russia, Ukraine, Iran, a demilitarization, a denuclearization, if I could take that word. The market has really learned to sort of take all these things in stride. So I think VIX, even with a 20 handle, not going to be a bad thing and going to keep the bulls in the barn. I think we're in good shape.
I think so too. All right, you've got a spotlight before we hit the four stocks. What do you got in front of us today?
We do, yes. We're going to be covering once again. We've been covering the stock a lot because they've had a lot of news. It is OS Therapies. OSTX is the ticker symbol. This is a company that is a leader in the development of therapeutic treatments for osteosarcoma, particularly pediatric osteosarcoma. That's bone cancer in children. Really horrible. Unfortunately, a very high mortality rate. Not a lot in terms of alternative treatments and therapies. But the company announcing today the launch of their OS Animal division. This, of course, is the business unit through which they will be commercializing their osteosarcoma therapies for the veterinary industry, primarily in dogs. We're big dog lovers. You, Pete, John, we've all had rescues and adopted. I had a dog that struggled with this disease many years ago. Unfortunately, spent tons of money trying to get this dog back to health. But this is a massive market. This is big news for the company. The symbol, again, OSTX, that's OS Therapies. This is a paid spot. We do have shares in this company, although they are restricted and locked up. But please read the disclaimers at the end and the beginning of the show before considering an investment.
All right, we're going to jump into these stocks, and we've already talked about one of them a little bit with United Health. Now, what in the world's going on with United Health? Well, earlier this week, the CEO said, you know what, I'm stepping down. Now, he's only been there for a few months, by the way. and it's for personal reasons. Well, that's sort of not so great. That sounds like a little bit of a red flag. And then all of a sudden, what do we hear today? Criminal investigation. I mean, wow. When you're looking at medical fraud and you're looking at Medicare Advantage was the area that they were talking about. The investigations are going on now, and they go all the way back to last summer, 2024. There's a reason why that stock is getting absolutely pounded today, and I feel a heck of a lot better, Mark, because I had calls from a lot of different buddies saying, hey, Pete, what do you think of United Health down here? It's really gotten hit. I think it's ready to bounce. And I'm like, let's try to look at this a little bit differently. How about the fact that we don't know what's going on with the CEO, this, that, and the other, and they've got a few problems still that they've got to iron out. Well, now all of a sudden this blockbuster thing comes out. The stock goes down even further, goes down another $50. It's now down 55% in a month. That seems like a pretty bad month. So 64 million contracts in the first two, or shares rather, in the first 2 hours, averages 8 million a day. So a lot of people are in there trying to sell what they can. It's at 52-week lows. Of course it is. But this is not one of those that I think you need to go down there and say, you know what, I think I like it down here. It's probably going to turn at some point. But I don't think that you need to be somebody who wants to be a hero. And that's what a lot of the buyers are thinking they are when they go in now.
This is a no touch. I mean, let's be honest. This company is as embattled as it gets when you have the announcement of a commencement of a DOJ investigation into the company, not the CEO personally. And I think the CEO may be taking this personal time to perhaps spend time with the company's attorneys and prepare for depositions and things of that nature. That's often takes a massive amount of time in the C-suite when something like this happens. But Pete, in my humble experience, we're going to put the lawyer hat back on here for a second, although I am retired. In my experience, stories like this get worse before they get better. I ain't chasing this one.
No, I think you're doing the right thing. All right, NetEase is our next one. Chinese video publisher, right? Now, I didn't know, I know the company, but I didn't know it as well because today, all of a sudden, it's a spotlight for me. And the earnings, they absolutely crush it. They put up a 241, looking for 193. They beat on the sales. They didn't beat it, they didn't crush it, but they beat it. By the way, the earnings are up 33% year over year, which I think is an important measure. Sales are up a little over 7% year over year. But what I was thinking was the most impressive part about this company, and I honestly mean this, it might be and might have the best balance sheet I have seen. They've got cash flow of $25 billion. They've got a cash to debt level in the positive of $125 billion. They're sitting at 52-week highs at 122. The PE is somewhere close to 14 now. I'm looking at the balance sheet and I'm like, you know what? There is nowhere where you could point and say, yeah, but that's not going to happen. This thing is absolutely a monster, and it's hitting 52-week highs again today.
Well, you know, Pete, like you, I like big balance sheets, and I cannot lie. This is definitely one of them, and it stands in stark contrast to its competitor, Ubisoft, announcing today some pretty dismal sales numbers and some pretty dismal forward guidance, notwithstanding that they have titles like the extremely popular Assassin's Creed. It goes to the very populous nature of this industry. A single title can make a company like this sink or swim. NetEase coming out, certainly in the horse race against competitor Ubisoft, NetEase certainly coming out the winner thus far.
Yeah, they are a monster. All right, next up is Dick's. Now, Dick's is getting hit pretty good today. It's down 15%. Why is it down 15%? They're making an acquisition. And that happens oftentimes. Sometimes I think it's a misread. We'll see. You and I think, differ on this one, but we can kick it around. They're acquiring Foot Locker, $2.4 billion. What's the first thing that comes to Pete Najarian's mind? Well, investment banking. We talk about it all the time. What is absolutely carrying Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, JP Morgan, Citi, Bank of America? You go through the whole list. When you look at the investment banking side of things, last quarter, the quarter before that, absolutely amazing. So you've got things like this, acquisitions, you also M&A, but you also have the IPO world. So that's what really kind of pulled me into this one even a little more. I wanted to look a little further. When you get a stock that gets an 82% bump because the buyer, Dick's, and maybe they're overpaying a little bit. I really don't know. I can't look at the books or anything like that. But, you know, I look at this one and I say, all right, well, 24 bucks a share. That actually doesn't seem all that bad because last summer the stock was trading at $33 a share. So, you know, it kind of makes me think that they see something, and they obviously said they see something that is they're not doing this right. and they need to change that. And I think that will actually be a cure. Dix knows how to do it. They are an absolute monster when it comes to the sport world or whatever, and clothing and everything that goes along with it, shoes. So, yeah, I like Dix here despite the fact that it's down 15%. Matter of fact, I'd probably be more interested in looking at Dix and down here right now than United Health, that's for sure.
Yeah, I totally agree. And listen, this is a name that I like too, Pete. They are in my opinion, the industry leader in sporting goods and outdoor type of stuff. I just question two things. I mean, one, just because it was $33 last summer and 24 now doesn't mean it was not too expensive then and still too expensive. Number one. Number two, I don't really understand. Dick's already has a massive brick and mortar footprint. Massive brick and mortar footprint. There's probably three of them within 5 miles of where I'm sitting right here in my home office in New Jersey. I just don't get it. I think they're overpaying, and I think that's why the stock is selling off the way it is. On the Dick's side, Foot Locker shareholder, you're popping bottles right now.
You better
but
be
not
happy
if you're holding Dick's. That's right.
And the other thing about it that I didn't mention was they said that this would be accretive within the first year, which that's not normal. So I think that's pretty impressive. A lot of the time when you do that, it's going to take a lot of time. You got to do this, you got to do that. I think that was something that struck me as well. So we could be on different sides of this one. That's okay. Next up, we got DLocal. Now we're looking at payment processors. Now this guy, I'll tell you what, it's not a company that I was hugely, I didn't know it all that well, but I was looking at it saying, all right, these guys have payment volumes of $8.11 billion. Really? That's a pretty monstrous number. They absolutely beat in a big way on the earnings side. They beat even in a bigger way on the revenue side. So everywhere I'm looking year over year, the growth that this company has is absolutely outrageous. It deserves to be up 23% today. As a matter of fact, this is a name that I'm going to have to take a look at because I don't know it all that well, didn't know it all that well. But I'll tell you what, the more I looked at it, the more I'm thinking, you know what? These guys are in the right place at the right time, and I think they're going to continue to crush it.
And you know what the right place is, Pete, when it comes to peer-to-peer banking and things like this? It's not in the physical world. When it comes to the emerging markets, the unbanked and underbanked parts of the world, it is not going to develop and be brought into the global banking system by establishing brick and mortar banks with tellers and those pens that are at the end of those little curly chains that we all know and love from our childhood. That ain't going to happen. It's platforms like this, peer-to-peer, a lot of them blockchain-based for security. This is won $8 billion in transaction volume. They have clearly established a pretty nice beachhead. This is a hot space. I like this one. It's gone on my watch list, and I might look to pick it up on dips, as I am prone to do. I don't like buying when stocks are up. I like buying when they're down.
You and me both. You and me both. And I'm going to be looking at this one for a while as well. I'm going to keep track of this one. All right, next up, we got a little bit of sports, and then we're out of here. But for the week, by the way. But NFL. Why do I always say the NFL is so dominant? Well, I got down last night. I laid in bed. I'm sitting there watching the ESPN, right? It comes on. You got the NBA playoffs going on. You got the NHL playoffs going on. And what did they lead with? The NFL and who they're going to be playing. What does it look like? What's the schedule look like? Yeah. Everybody's running around like their hair's on fire. Well, it's interesting because there's a lot of different things about it. And, it did grab my interest. Obviously, I like football a lot. But I like the fact that the very first game of the year is a game where it kicks off with Philadelphia hosting the Dallas Cowboys, two that are going after each other in a big way. The Cowboys did a lot in the offseason. I think Philadelphia lost a few in the offseason as well. So might make for a pretty interesting game, actually. Then the New York Giants. I know you're a Jets guy. But the New York Giants, they get the award of having the very toughest schedule that's out there this year. San Francisco gets what's considered to be the easiest schedule that's out there. Monday Night Football kicks off with the Vikings at Chicago. That's going to be a barn burner. That should be pretty freaking phenomenal. So there's a lot of things going on. And then there's the other side of it, and I know you know where I'm going. Global. The NFL has been going global, and they've been doing it for a long time. Hell, it goes all the way back to the days where I played in something that was called, the World League of American Football. It got bought by Europe NFL, and they had an NFL just in Europe is what they ended up doing. So they moved all the teams that were at different places, Sacramento, Montreal, Orlando. They all went over into Europe. Well, they're going over into Europe and everywhere else in the entire world now, and they are bringing the world NFL football, and people are loving it. Someday there will be a team in London. I think that's going to be their very first spot. But right now they've got Sao Paulo, Dublin, London, Berlin, and Madrid. And the Minnesota Vikings have a road game playing at Dublin and then playing at London the following Sunday before they come home. That's going to be a fun trip with a heck of a lot of Minnesotans that are going to be coming down into Dublin. And I hope they don't embarrass us all as U.S. people or whatever. And then they're going to go to London, and then they'll come back and they'll be right at U.S. Bank Stadium the following week.
Yeah, what's interesting to me, Pete, I mean, number one, of course, how much the international schedule stood out for me, as it did for many fans. But this is really confidence reaffirmation of the league's absolute commitment to making this a global sport. And the choice of those cities, it ain't an accident. Dublin, London, Sao Paulo, Berlin. What are those cities famous for? Those are big time football, although soccer, as we call it, right? Those are cities with rabid fan bases for soccer that the NFL thinks will translate well to football. I tend to agree. I'm going to keep an eye on how things go with those games in Brazil, though, because, of course, that was one of the controversial venues last year with players being concerned about things like safety and so on and so forth. But, yeah, that was what jumped off the page at me, Pete, was the international schedule.
And lastly, we're going to hit with a little bit of college football. And you noticed I didn't go to the NBA or the NHL. Well, there's a reason for that. The college football even trumps that whole thing. So anyway, 2026 recruiting was delivered, and now they have ratings out on that. And so that was another one of the things that not only did I read about it, but I saw it on television as well. So here's the schools: USC, Ohio State, Notre Dame, Penn State, Clemson, Texas A&M. What do they all have in common? They have some of the biggest NIL schools that exists in college, right? I mean, it's Texas A&M just takes money and just goes, "What do you need? You need another running back? I can get this kid for $300,000. What do you think? Oh, maybe $1 million. Okay, well, what the hell?" I mean, that's really what it's come down to, and it's kind of crazy. The big get bigger, the rich get richer, and it's absolutely amazing because you're putting people in 100,000 seat stadiums. Most of these, by the way, LSU is somewhere on, should have been on the list as well. But big stadiums, they bring in big money, but they got big donors. And the NIL, that's what it's all about, man. That's how you get those players. What I don't like about it is you leave a lot of other schools out without any way of competing, especially financially. I mean, how do I compete if I'm at the University of Iowa with Texas A&M, right? I mean, we don't have the same kind of donors. We have a big stadium, though, so that part's good. But, it's just a different world, and it's making college football. I don't like what's happening, and I think they've got to cap this whole thing off at some point.
It seems to be impacting the purity of the sport, right? It's not just about attracting these star athletes because of academic programs and things of that nature. It's all about the dollars. Ultimately, that's going to result in even further consolidation of power to recruit in the hands of a very small number of teams, as you outlined with the recruiting ratings that are the headline of the story, which I think ultimately is going to make it less exciting to watch. Right? It's part of the reason why F1 is expanding the number of teams. We don't just want to see McLaren or the Red Bull team win every single time that they race. It's not exciting anymore. Right. So I think it's something to be concerned about when it comes to the college football, no doubt.
Yep. So we hit them with two football stories. So next week I'll do a better job. I'll try to spread it out to the others. Actually, by then the NBA will have a lot better understanding of where they are. The NHL will know where they are. And when it gets finally to the very pinnacle, then they're almost to the bottom of where football starts.
That's right. That's it. We do have, of course, women's water polo. Well, Pete, I got a couple of little housekeeping items as we close today's Rebels Edge. First of all, of course, tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, live, the Smart Money Summit. Your brother John, Dr. J. Najarian, and our friend and business partner Grant Cardone are going to be taking to the airwaves. If you're watching the show, you very likely received an email to register. You might have received more than one. If you have not registered, please do so. Go to markrebellion.com or call your friendly neighborhood Market Rebellion sales rep. They will get you set up. You can join us tomorrow for subscribers on our weekly 1 p.m. super popular cocktail hour. Pete, I'll be on Saturday morning. Our friends at Newsmax are testing me out on a new morning show on Saturday morning. They don't know it's going to substantially curtail my normal Friday night nocturnal activities. But hey, what we do to do the news, it's what we do. And of course, you can catch us every day, Monday through Thursday of next week, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. on the Rebel's Edge. I'll be on Schwab Network with Diane King, 8:20 a.m. Monday morning. And Pete, when is that special that we shot yesterday on the NICE floor going to air on Schwab? That's a 1-hour special.
I have no idea. But I'll tell you what, she is one of the greatest of all time, and Schwab does an unbelievable job. They really do.
Yep.
I give them a lot of credit in the financial television world.
Well, we'll follow up with our producers there. That's going to be a 1-hour special with Pete, John, and the lovely and talented Nicole Petalides on Schwab. We'll let you know when that airs. Until then, thanks for joining on today's Rebel's Edge.